if we can visibly see that in the draft. And obviously we'll need a few more picks before we answer that. Gragas, the response here from Origen.
And yeah, like you mentioned, we saw Mithy take over a game on the Irelia from the mid lane. It can happen from top, but it's definitely a champion that fits the bill. Looking over the side of Origen, Gragas priority rising. Always the chance that Yasuo will be paired with it, an old Nukeduck pick through many, many metas.
Well, let's see what happens. Xayah there now confirmed in. Rakan is still open and available. So whether or not Mithy and Patrik will get the duo, or if Misfits feel they want to deny it, we'll find out shortly.
A really fun draft you could take here is Karma Ezreal, because it can be an entire duo lane, or it can just be a smoke valve to get a potential lead elsewhere. Not somewhere you have to go, and some people are on the Ezreal hype train like Patrik, other people are not. Leader playing with our hearts with multiple different picks here. Jungle would show nothing about the draft. You would actually learn a lot if the Azir was locked in.
Well, it's not going to be just yet. Well, before I speak too soon, a lot of options being thrown around, and we saw the Corki going bot lane a little bit earlier. So we've obviously got that Azir Corki meta we've talked a lot about, and while both were hovered, it was the Rakan. You cannot give that power over to Patrik and Mithy.
Also, who is doing the Azir Corki hovering, but none other than the player who was so clear on Euphoria, flaming people for not actually looking forward from the meta and sticking with Azir Corki duty. That was leader. Definitely a must-listen to interview. Hashtag sellout from the freelance caster.
Oh, I'm so proud. You're trained so well, Papa.
What can I say? I signed the contract.
The question is, does Karma go top Irelia mid based on what we're seeing from the Misfits sides?
You would kind of see that's where it would fall in, right? Because you do think of leader as that sort of guy who gets to a certain item point on Irelia and can kill a game and can take the 2v3s and 2v1s that we saw Mickey on before, but we've seen stranger things already today.
Yeah, we have, absolutely, and maybe we're going to enter the upside down if Jesus is able to pull the rug out from under us, show a surprising turn for leader and running the Karma, but we need to get through the rest of the draft before we determine that. Elise and Yasuo taken off the table. We're still looking for a jungle champ for Kirei. With Elise being taken away, he's played that twice on stage. Gragas is obviously taken away as well. I want to see where he goes, especially with Sejuani and J4 also banned.
And he can also have a very personal champion pool. I always think of Kindred when I think of Kirei. Same as Dread over on A Freak of Freaks. Both those guys have that pocket Kindred that has come through in both pro play and solo queue, but a pick that is very unlikely to be thrown out there.
Yeah, of course, it's a challenging one to get in the draft. It really has to be preferential. And I'm not sure I love it into the likes of a Nautilus and a Gragas that have some tools to deal with it. So we'll find out in a few seconds as Azir has been banned away and Sivir the final option. So the Corki, the Ezreal, those types of picks that Patrik can shine on, available to him, and we'll see which direction he goes. What would you like to see these guys locking in now?
If you go the Corki early here, you kind of give away the white flag. It's going to be a scaling draft, and you're going to very much be looking for certain power spikes. I'd much prefer the renekton to give a lane that can be attacked. It doesn't have to be mid or top lane. It is a flex pick in and of itself, but likely to just be shadowing wherever the Irelia wants to go, given the matchup is a good one for the renekton. So that's the information they have. It's a very straightforward draft from them. We're trying to work out where Misfits is going to be placing their champions. I alluded to the Ezreal earlier. It's going to be Ezreal Rakan, not Ezreal Karma like we illustrated, but still going to be Ezreal probably just for some safety and to allow Kirei to play top side, but it kind of depends what type of jungler he wants to jump on.
Yeah, and I also like this idea because you can just leave Neon alone and go and play around that Irelia lane, or even the Karma lane to a degree, once we find out what Kirei locks in. Fair amount of mobility. It's kind of that same flavor that we've seen from Kirei. Aggro in your face, Xin Zhao to close out the comp.
And it's something that can just repeat gank and really focus on a single lane and make your inroads doing that. So I don't mind this pick at all from the side of Misfits. Very difficult jungler for Gragas to skirmish against. Looking for Origen to close up the draft, and this would be the standard choice. When in doubt, go Corki.
Yeah, definitely going to give you that scaling option. So what do these two team compositions want to do in your eyes?
I think on the side of Origen, they're trying to use the potential to just play through top side with just say first Predator gank and how reliable a renekton is to bridge to Xayah's 2 items, Corki's 3+ items, and they'll feel very comfortable team fighting because front to back, you've got 280 carries in the back and a lot of tanky frontliners on the side of Origen. Meanwhile, on the side of Misfits, it's a draft that can actually play a 4-1 style around leader's split push, assuming leader will be the one jumping onto the Irelia. almost certain given his reputation, and there is the confirmation at 20 seconds. And from there, you strap some shields onto Ezreal and start looking for a siege on that. Yes, Xin Zhao and Rakan don't provide too much in that area, but can be used on the disengage. And if Leader reaches critical mass, if he can 1v1 the renekton, there's actually kill potential and a potential win condition for the side of Misfits.
There absolutely is, but there's so many ifs. So many ifs, and that's what we need to judge.
That's League of Legends, baby.
The last time Leader played Irelia on the stage, he finished the game 1 kill, 6 deaths, and 1 assist. So there's a lot of pressure on this Misfits Gaming roster and on Leader to perform.
So what you're saying is he's overdue for a pop-off game on Irelia is what I'm hearing, because he's just like Mickey. He got those pop-off games to back up the ones that don't go so well.
Well, let's flip the coin and find out which Misfits will take to the stage today as they take on Origen here in the LEC. Thank you very much, Berlin, Germany. We jump into game number 4 here in week 7. And there's a little bit of early game shenanigans as multiple Misfits members, actually the entire Misfits team, are going to be somewhat met here by Origen. Alphari is the only one sitting very far north of this. I don't believe either squad has much vision, but they're going to be committing. Mithy and Patrik going to be revealed. Leaders coming in. That's already the dash away. Mithy's in trouble, forced to flash. Early advantage to Misfits, and Mithy could be a juicy target in that bottom lane.
And there was actually almost certain to be a face check in that play, because I was looking at the minimap while we were seeing that kind of the Mexican standoff between the two, and there was no defensive wards at that point, only the single one you notice placed down from either team as the face check started to happen. So Mithy has to invest his flash to get away from the player. The Ignite trade, a lot shorter cooldown coming through from Hiva, but especially if it plays out as we expect and Neon and Hiva kind of left on an island, having the enemy Nautilus flash down relieves a lot of pressure from the Misfits duo lane.
It really does, and seeing Hiva leading the charge and Mithy losing the flash.
So this is cool, Trevor, just to cut you off here. DanDan's looking for a blind swap mid lane as they're trying to work out exactly where the renekton is going. They want Leader to dodge out on the renekton matchup. That is a renekton counter pick to Irelia for as long as possible. So we're being flexible from level 1.
Oh, very nice. And while you did cut me off, it actually was good because it was important. But I just want to tug on your heartstrings for a second. Because with Hiva and Mithy starting off the support story, and you know, Papasmithy, you started a very successful meme.
You know, it's true. I didn't know you were going to shine the light on me here today. Okay, putting me on the spot a little bit.
With Gorilla leaving Misfits, you had to retire the Gorilla. Was it heart-wrenching?
You know, at some point, I was running out of pictures of sad gorillas, and you had to Google some kind of really awkward things in order to get them, like death of a gorilla, which is getting a bit morbid.
Wow, that had to get very dark.
I mean, they lost a lot of games, Trevor, so it got tricky.
I can tell everyone watching, I did not tell Papasmithy that was going to happen. I didn't know we were going to talk about dead animals at the moment, so we'll move on and turn our attention to this Irelia
to being excited about champions dying. Hooray!
Matchup. But the next question I'm going to ask then is, Karma into renekton, this is obviously beneficial for DanDan, and to my eyes, could be one of those pressure valves that will allow Leader to farm up, get the levels, get the items he needs to carry Misfits.
I think you can't disagree with that point, but what you can mention, I guess maybe we'll have to hold, as Kirei is already topside.
Yeah, we can. There's a flawless duet. Nukeduck's down to less than 100.
Wow.
Leader with the solo kill onto Nukeduck.
Kirei just comes and watches front row as Leader gets his own lead in the side lane, coming to top lane way earlier than we would have anticipated, dodging away from the renekton, and it just seemed like Nukeduck, we didn't see the start of the play, but he seemed to invite too much early damage they just didn't have an answer for, and they're looking for the repeat gank here.
They absolutely are. While that's going on, DanDan was dashed on. Now Nukeduck's trying to escape. Flawless Duet will not find a target, but they get the teleport out of Patrik.
And I was waiting to see whose that was. I was wondering if there was something coming from the bot lane shenanigans-wise, but that was actually the 80 carries TP as well. And you'll notice they're not going to use this as a reason to lane swap and potentially try 2v1 Irelia. That's just Patrik missing and potentially losing any wave control on the bot side. Doesn't seem like, at the end of the day, Misfits want to hard push this one, as they don't have enough advanced vision, I guess, to want to greed for plates.
No, of course not. And of course, when you see Leader getting a solo kill early, as a player that that is either a 5-0 or an 0-5 style player, this is a very, very good sign. And of course, we're actually going to watch the solo kill from the perspective of Leader.
And already got the press the attack down. And worth mentioning, this is not Conqueror. Press the attack is for the earlier damage. You get that flat 40 damage, I think, at level 1 just from getting the press the attack proc, and doesn't even need the Xin Zhao in order to do all the hard work.
Yeah, really nicely done. And, you know, the analyst desk actually set up Leader's playstyle, and I just mentioned a moment ago, in wins, 10 kills to 4 deaths. In losses, 2 kills to 5 deaths. Look at the damage share as well, you know, when he's unlocked, when he can carry, and it's kind of what you expect of this young, aggressive, mechanically impressive mid laners produced from Europe. And now Leader will get jumped on by Kold. Chilling Smite comes down and just instantly punished.
That was some caster and stats curses right there, which you have to appreciate on some level. He was brawling with Patrik to stop him from going for a back timing or anything like that. The lovers quarrel.
But it's again, it's a play style that you anticipate. It's the play style you expect. And at the end of the day, kill was secured by Kold, so it's not going to help Nukeduck out too much in this lane, Papa.
One of the interesting things about the first replay was they actually saw Gragas on that blue ward bot side, so it was the perfect time to all in. But Leader decides the perfect time to all in is when you get a chance, when you surf off a minion wave, where you can potentially just back away after a good trade, whether you get the kill or not, and keep the freeze on, and keep the zone on. But this time, Kold is in a spot where he's able to actually get a great combination with his laners. We talked in Champion Select how his proximity was high in terms of being around those laners, but the effective ganks weren't there last week. So already, Leader was a player that Kold would have been licking his lips about. Ganking wouldn't have known it would be top lane, but it comes together in that play.
And it's really great that the two players we're looking at in the pregame have both already shown up. Kold 1 and 0. You'll notice that Alphari's made his way back to the top lane. The moment Nukeduck showed mid, DanDan already moved up top, and they're going for this dive.
They're going to hard force this one. I don't think they're going to be very patient.
If the stun can connect, DanDan did not use the empowered ability, and Kold is waiting in the wings. There's Alphari going forward. That's a 3-on-1 for now. He's already dead before Kold can arrive, and that was just beautiful.
And it was nice and assertive, too. This is what can happen when you have a jungler like Xin Zhao with a roaming mid laner. In this case, the Karma. They're looking for further ganks, but pretty hard to keep Kold down completely.
Yeah, it really is. The 3-talent strike did get a small knock-up. It's still a 3-on-2, even with Alphari teleporting in. Teleport will complete there from DanDan. Recall, rather, and he's going to teleport to the mid lane. But, I mean, what do you make of these lane swaps? You know, do you like seeing this when you've got those counter matchups in the likes of renekton into Irelia?
I think avoiding the matchup is pretty strong, and also because trying to reactionarily jungle in this case is Kold is pretty tricky, because when to be somewhere, given the Karma, of course, is going to push in a renekton, and Xin Zhao has so much kill pressure from level 2 onwards, is really, really tricky. It almost feels like there's potential smoke in mid and top at all points, and like we predicted, no one's going anywhere near the bot lane.
No, absolutely not the case. Still an even game as far as gold is concerned, 300. Nothing really to write off. Look at the minimap though. Kold and Kirei are both waiting. Kirei does not have level 6 yet, Kold does. So that displacement could prove very valuable.
Predator's on top, so they know about this.
All right, Leader gonna look for the flawless duet. He might be able to find a 2-man stun. No, just the one into Kold. Dashing sideways, but there's Kirei trying to find the knockup, but the barrel manages to force Kirei away, and OG even the kills.
Good problem solving by Origen, all things considered there. Kirei in the right position, not level 6 like you noticed, but in the end wouldn't have been a difference, and that's after a beautiful flawless duet did connect with Kold. The extra health from the Dominus enough to guarantee that one. And it's just like it's been repeat ganks from both sides. They're going for more!
Oh, they are indeed, and that's just a killing spree already for Kold. This is a very impressive start for Origen, and arguably the best early game I've seen in several weeks. This team, remember, is on a 3-game losing streak, and they seem to understand how to punish the youthful Misfits squad.
And it's good to see that. The prep against Misfits would have been clear, because like you say, it's very much open book what Leader's going to try to do, and then we're more examining around it what can be done to stop that from happening. It's the eventuality of the play is there to some degree. I think after the modifications of the early game, which was smart from Misfits to go from the early swap, Origen have done a lot of good things. This was, as we mentioned, open book for both sides, but if you're not going to fully disengage from the turret, there's no teleport for Leader for a while. I guess Kirei kind of has to come and start clearing minions a little bit earlier, otherwise the gank is always going to bear fruit, at least in one form.
Of course, it's one of those things you're going to look at a lot, because Vanguard's Edge was up and available for Leader. Wonder what order you want to try throw those abilities out and try to survive the play, and at the end of the day, he didn't. So Leader, 1-2-1. Remember the last time we played him, went 1-6-1. Not like a precursor or anything, just a reminder of how it went. And this flawless duet will not find a target. Nukeduck could get jumped on. There is some support from DanDan, but the package will get him out to safety. And it's Origen that have pulled ahead just before 10 minutes, 700 gold up. And Papa, what was your take on Origen? You know, when we were talking coming into this, we all had some nerves based on their recent performance, but is this good for you in your eyes and versus what you were expecting?
I think it's definitely a jump up from most recent games. I think you've had to adjust expectations because the run for Origen into playoffs, you know, should have started a couple of weeks ago, but has been pretty all over the place. I mean, you just look at the match scores, right? And Misfits had no wins to speak of for a long time till they swapped out their original roster and brought in the Premier roster, and Origen just haven't really been in sync. I've been kind of watching over their games and just been looking for rhyme and rhythm from a squad that was always so clean in spring season. You know, they reminded me a lot of how they wanted to play the game as SKT as possible, it felt like, in spring, and that was to their benefit. But in summer, they've always felt a little bit off the pace in terms of what they're trying to do. And I've been noting down drafts saying, okay, you're going to play top side, and they'll put all their resources bot. And I'm like, oh, I don't really get this. So that internal consistency that was their calling card hasn't been there. As bot lane, we're trying something.
They are indeed, but a lot of mobility on this Misfits squad. A very, very safe duo. Maybe part of the reason they picked it, and it managed to work out perfect.
And honestly, sometimes ults like that are not actually for kill pressure, but to try to get some lane presence back, to stop a freeze from happening. They got 2 control wards from Misfits on the bot side, and any health bar lead you can get can actually get some stability in what was a trying situation for Origen's bot.
Okay, so not too bad. We'll keep an eye on if it actually ends up helping out. While that was going on, Kold accidentally secures the blue buff. We'll see whether or not that's a tilter. He's going to run into Kirei, and actually, I think OG have got more support here earlier. Kirei's going to throw down the ultimate already. Leader has the potential for a big stun. Not going to throw it out just yet. The Dredge Line manages to connect onto DanDan. Leader forced to flash defensively. He's rooted in place. Now he's being chased down. Below 100. One more auto from Nukeduck will pick up the kill. Teleport from Patrik will secure the Rift Herald. And Origen, they're going to get themselves an advantage. DanDan and Kiva escape by their hairs on the chinny chin chin. And the Rift Herald secured there by Patrik.
Good contest time from the side of Origen. Mithy packed up after that all-in and went straight to the Rift Herald. And in the play, because Kirei's health bar was basically void at the start of it, having used all of his health bar to tank the Rift Herald and then also get turned on, he was out. Leader used all of his health bar trying to contest in the backline, but it was almost always at 6s and 7s from the side of Misfits, and unlikely to control the Rift Herald because it's still so healthy as the play starts.
Well, at the end of the day, Origen, they close this one out clean, and just not really seeing that beautiful mechanical prowess from the Misfits players in those skirmishes that I kind of have come to expect. You know, Leader, you sometimes think he could pick up some kills here and there, and unfortunately has just been bullied by Origen.
I think it's worth mentioning that Patrik had the TP advantage, was coming in, throwing any more resources after Leader had already dived in, was going to be just chasing a loss, something we all have done at some point in our career. So because of that, Misfits back away. They'll need to find a better time here. We have to kind of now start to gauge where we're at in terms of CS leads, as we had multiple lane swaps, but Leader a little bit off the pace, but eventually 2 items, things come together.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing in grayscale at 1-3-1 as far as your scoreline is, you will be down 20 CS, Nukeduck up, obviously, and it's been DanDan that's been matching that renekton as often as possible. Kold actually is going to get charmed up here, but Mithy's already in range. Kirei's going to block some damage for now, and Kiva forced to run for his life. Not enough damage from Neon. The teleport from Nukeduck. That's a stun and a kill onto Neon. Hiva will get shut down by Mithy. And that's just a very good play from Origen. Now DanDan all out of sorts. 4 members of Origen going to look to run him down. Kirei and Leader nowhere near close enough. And this could be the first tower of the game. Once that next minion wave conga lines its way in. In fact, they may even be able to take it down now. Here comes Mithy from behind. No ultimate, but he may not need it. Flash over into the Riptide. Dredge Line will also catch, and yet another to Origen.
Absolutely. One by one, they fall on the side of Misfits, trying to make something happen, trying to force, or overforce, I would say, with Hiva, but Origen actually get the more decisive teleport spot straight onto the control ward in the brush there, and that means that Misfits are horribly out of position. They take a lot of losses on the bot side, and a couple of turret plates in the mid lane, maybe just a single one for Neon, but the gold lead is already, as his pause comes in, 5,000 gold.
I mean, 5,000 gold at 13.5 minutes is fantastic. reporting a potential bug to League officials. After taking Kleptomancy as a rune, he reported that at that point in the game, he had not yet received a single item from the rune. We've reviewed the Shadowplay footage of the game, and League officials have confirmed that while receiving gold from Kleptomancy, he did not, in fact, get any items from the runes. League officials have ruled that at this time they do not see evidence that this is a bug. He is still receiving gold, and because Kleptomancy has a chance of not providing items, it is determined that he has had an extremely unlucky streak of odds not receiving an item so far. Officials have called that we play on. Players are in game. And that is hashtag Monka.
This is like the Twilight Zone game, the 0.0001% game where you just didn't get any items. He's legit hashtag unlucky.
Yeah, there's no other way of putting it. You can see the gold is there. You can see that Corki's Nukeduck has been getting some items along the way. It's a very difficult situation to be in, and it's just frustrating to deal with, right? So kudos to DanDan for calling the pause. Apologies for the delay, but it is good that we checked. And now we're back into game where Origen are 5,000 gold up. They have been able to counter every positive play that Misfits have attempted to make, and Kold and Mithy have really just been in control of this early game.
And to extend our early game discussion and also what they were speaking about on the analyst desk about how Misfits play it out, you know, we also identified as DanDan's going to speed away.
He is indeed, gets pinned against the wall, looking for the dredge line from Mithy, not even going to need it. Depth charge comes up, the ignite, shield will tick away, momentary blip as Kirei's not going to be able to chase down, and I think DanDan able to survive just barely.
Just able to walk out, but again, coming back to our estimations of the 4-1, playing around leader, that's not really possible anymore. Now he has to deal with the renekton. They can't choose their matchup. It's a 2-level lead.
Unbelievable stuff. A stun lands onto leader. The flawless duet will come out. That will buy some time. Vanguard's edge comes out as well. Look at the minimap, by the way. Nukeduck is making his way down. Leader's trying to escape, but he gets stunned up by the W, and Alphari will pick up the solo kill. 1-1-4. And he's got himself a 10 CS advantage as well.
So, as is very clearly confirmed, you cannot send leader into the side lane because you don't get to choose them anymore like you could in the early game with the blind swap. So because of that, suddenly, Misfits just have to try to team fight with a Karma, which is again possible. However, Ezreal doesn't have 2 items yet. Leader is desperately trying to find one. Now all Misfits can do is kind of pilot an inferior comp when it comes to earlier fighting against Origen, when Origen decides, and only the game extending to those core items a little bit late can be any kind of welcome respite for Misfits.
This isn't the team that Misfits wanted to play against to hope that they would not be able to close. Origen with the lead are extremely terrifying. There's a lot of experienced players on this roster, and they know how to push their advantage. So for Misfits, looking for unforced errors and hoping that Origen don't punish them further, but Kold once again, just having a great game. 3-0-3 as Gragas has counter-ganked and punished Leader multiple times. By the way, I did say Leader's last Irelia performance went 1-6-1.
Hey!
He's 1-4-1. If he ends 1-6-1, a quick stat for you, Papasmithy. Both games would be the same KDA.
Wow, look at you. You're really working on these quick stats today, which I always appreciate. I always give you a shout out, as you know, on the LCK broadcast.
You do indeed. I was disappointed you didn't have your Dragon stats prepped for me yesterday upon your arrival. But we can fix that. We can work on it.
I went for a handshake and you gave me a pile of papers.
You should have been more prepared.
You're on thin ice at the moment,
You
Trevor.
should have been more prepared.
Thin ice.
More prepared. Well, big shout out again. Thank you very much to everybody here in Berlin for having such good energy in that very extended pause. And thank you for sticking with us. We still have Fnatic taking on Schalke once this game concludes, but for Misfits,
matchup there.
It will be a fun one. For this one though, it's just like, man, Misfits have to dig deep.
It's not impossible. Look, at the end of the day, it isn't. The Ravenous Hydra is there, so at least you can side lane and not die instantly, and if they can find a way to get a pick, there's always the chance that you can try to force Origen's hand, but right now it does feel like it plays into their hands.
Yeah.
And you look at this and it needs to be an outnumber or a surprising play, and these wards are pretty deep behind enemy lines from Origen.
Yeah, you've seen Kold and Alphari using them over the last few minutes. I mean, it's 2 towers to 0, so Origen can still knock over that mid-outer, and there's 2-level difference between Alphari and Leader. Alphari's got the Black Cleaver, the BF Sword, Kindle Gem, and here comes more support. So It's the hunting squad. Vanguard's edge first though from Misfits. There's so much HP to burn through for Alphari. He's easily able to pick up the kill. Yet another onto Hiva, swatting him out of the air. Now here comes Neon and DanDan as well, and it's still not done. Alphari's gonna get another. The huge HP. He's still alive. He's not done yet. Finally, Neon takes him down, but the dredge line from Mithy convinces Origen to secure the ace, the mid tower. And they're going to be turning towards Misfits base. 9,000 gold up.
To call that a trade up from Origen would be an understatement. They had an all-you-can-eat buffet on kills and also structures. The gold lead only grows. 10,000's a pretty easy number to calculate. We're over it.
Unbelievable. Look at the gold differences between the lanes.
I try not to.
Oh, man. 3,000 between DanDan and Alphari. Just to say it alone, 5 towers to 0 now. I mean, this is pretty much like GG. No. Nukeduck's going to almost kill Hiva. Not going to be able to do it, but Hiva loses his flash, so one of those engaged tools.
And we were on the precipice of a lockout item that I'll identify after this replay, but it's another case, and you often see these with the younger teams who play a predictable style, which is, all right, at some point, leader needs to get his gold. They go for their play, and they think, okay, we're out of vision. We've got the drop on them, but it's well read by Kold, you know, a player that I've criticized, and also Mithy, who are backing up their side laner, who has a big bounty and a lot of gold. This Croc was pretty damn massive in the play to get the cleanup kills. And when we get the overlay back up, you'll notice the lockout item for me that really kind of means that leader is very likely to be forcing into irrelevance in the 1v1 against renekton is the Spear of Shojin. And, you know, it's pretty good against DanDan as well.
Oh, it's good against everybody. Flash over the wall, Alphari can't chase. But, I mean, this is impressive for OG. I'm happy to see them bouncing back. I'm also happy to see them matching, equaling, and bettering Misfits' early game. Because if you look at their wins and losses over the last few weeks, while the engage is happening, I still think Misfits are more likely to die than Origen. And the second half of the split started on a 3-game loss streak. Vitality, G2, Fnatic. If you compare that to the beginning of summer, Origen were able to beat Vitality.
Yep.
And then obviously lose to number 1 and 2 and pick up a couple of trades here and there. But, like, I was getting very worried for Origen. I was seeing a downward trend. I was seeing regression in play. And looking towards playoffs, this team was not looking to peak at the right time. They were plummeting to irrelevance.
And still, with all the kind of logical ways that Misfits could pick this up, I was on the Origen victory prediction because you think about those teams they faced as the whole point.
Well, let's see, as Patrik will take a big chunk from the two-shot barrage, buys some time thanks to the ultimates, and stays alive to escape. It's Kirei that goes down first, the tower that follows second, and here comes Alphari, who's looking for a ruthless predator but couldn't find a target. And let's talk about those teams that Origen was looking to face.
At the end of the day, if I think of Origen, I think that if they can do their prep on a team and know how they want to play, they will very often beat them. And that was, of course, the case for 8 of the other 9 teams in the league in spring season. I think in summer season, they have been on the back foot on the meta a little bit. They have been caught out in some matches that has really kind of put them on a lower ebb. But when it comes to a team like Misfits that largely will try to, at some point, throw everything in leader, whether he's winning or they're trying to salvage something, I feel like Origen have read the game really correctly.
Yeah, absolutely the case. I mean, this tower dive is very well played here by OG. Despite there being the kill there onto Mithy, the tower does fall. Origen get the advantage. They push it even further.
And they know what they're doing. The turret's low enough, they can turn on it and burn it. If the team of Misfits overstays, the gold lead only grows. It's now 11,500 on the map, and it just feels like the win conditions have dried up for Misfits. So if this was the LCK, we go back to that pie talk, Trevor.
Well, we will, because the question I'm going to ask you then is, what is your favorite pie? I actually asked Twitter, by the way, to let us know what their favorite pies were.
Did you rule out dessert pies, or what are we doing here?
No, that's not pie is a savory thing. Americans are wrong calling it a cake.
But I think you have a welcoming audience for that comment right now.
I did get updated, actually, that apparently like pepper steak is a South African pie, not a British pie. I had several very British people yelling at me, including my wife, I might add.
Is your history pulling you in multiple directions?
It is indeed. But seriously, we haven't decided what was your favorite pie, because Kirei's going to die.
That right?
And I'm not going to lie. This is just not a great piece of pie. I ran out of rhymes. I really tried. Mithy and Nukeduck are going to chase down, though. Nukeduck is going to look for
That's a big croc, and I'm Aussie. I wouldn't know.
It is indeed. Come on, Alphari! Can't get in range. DanDan shield and movement speed. There's the slice. There ain't no dice. Run, DanDan, run! Dun, 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 dun. There's a little bit of an engage in the mid lane. Mithy's going to look for some pressure onto leader and easily, with the help of Patrik, pick up the kill. And I'm still waiting for your favorite pie, because I'm done casting these guys die.
Oh, beautiful. As we watch the ring around a Rosie and the enemy base. Favorite pie? Steak and cheese, pretty good. That's a pretty standard Aussie one. I know that's giving you a...
Steak and cheese? What type of cheese?
I don't know, cheesy cheese. Nothing too special, trust me.
Come on, you're
the brie is for later.
You're an educated man. You can't say cheesy cheese. Are we talking Gouda, cheddar? Like, what do you put in a pie?
The Gouda cheese is what G2's tried in game number 3.
It did not taste very well.
No, it was a bit bitter, actually. As people are dying by accident.
They got nuked. So what would you do in the LCK in this scenario?
I don't know. Probably something about
Consider this a training lesson, because Kirei's going to nuke. This is going to be 1v4, by the way. Nukeduck almost finds DanDan. He does! Now turns his attention to Kirei. A crit and a barrel. A bomb might be enough. The leader should be able to close him out. Ooh! If that bomb earlier had hit, if Nukeduck's aim was better, he would have got another kill. So I'm actually disappointed in Nukeduck here.
That's a very critical approach, Quickshot, to this one, because it turns out the minimap was the real story. 2 people pushing in each of the top lane and the mid lane. Definitely. Misfits are just looking to try to salvage some KDA as the base finally breaks at 24 minutes.
Yeah, 3, 6, and 1. Leader has tripled the kills that he got last time he played this champion, making my quick stat untrue. But now what I'm going to do is teach you what we would do in the LEC.
I'm listening.
At this stage.
I'm learning.
I'm going to say, let's look at Origen's strength of schedule, Papasmithy. Because we talked about their improvement today and their suckiness the last few weeks.
Yep.
If you look at these next few games, how many do you predict Origen will win?
I think at least 4 of the 5 here. I think.
So who beats Origen?
That's a good question. I actually think Xayah are building towards a style that might actually be really strong, but I think that's the sort of thing that could reset week on week, so it's hard to say there. I think Splyce versus Origen would be very interesting to track, because Splyce have meandered a little bit recently. I wasn't too impressed with them last week, and obviously they had that loss earlier today, so that really deserves to be seen. But if it's a confident victory for Origen, there's a real chance that this is just a lineup they can take down.
Okay. I'm gonna quote you on that in a few weeks' time.
Sounds good. I'm not gonna be here, and I just won't watch the stream.
Oh,
that
I'm
day.
so disappointed. It'd be really great if you were here in a few weeks' time.
Whoa.
Would be great. I'm saying, hypothetically, you know.
I'll be checking the mail, Trevor.
With some meat and cheese pie. Another true shot barrage goes out. Inhibitor still standing in the top lane. And this Misfit squad, they just never got rolling. They did not have luck in their side. DanDan's Klepto being part of that. And then also, let's be frank, they were outplayed. Kold and Mithy had such a great early game. We're only 25 minutes in. 15k lead. First and second inhibs are falling, and this could just be the final push.
And yep, we already said that there was the scaling double 80 carries that were going to take it eventually. Eventually it was upgraded to 20 minutes into the game, and now any connections from Mithy and health bars will be void post-haste.
All right, level 16 on Alphari.
Oh.
That's one big crocodile that can dive into the back line. And of course, Mithy, he's got the availability to throw that mine down. Eva's going to look for an engage, but before it can happen, Kirei is already going to get blown up, along with Hiva underneath the fountain. Neon goes down, so does Leader. The last man standing, and Origen turn their attention to the Nexus. Origen stop the losing streak in its tracks, and they are fancying themselves a dive. Origen take down Misfits.
Even with your penchant for onomatopoeia, Trevor, there was no time to eulogize those deaths at the end. People were dying so damn fast, but all of it was Origen, who were a bit surprised by the blind swap that avoided the Irelia renekton matchup. But when they found their moment to get a catch, to start getting back into the game, the closeout here was quintessential. Spring Origen was the good Origen that went all the way to the final. So just like SKT, which started the season 1 and 5, sometimes even great teams need a victory. They need a win to remember that actually they are pro players that are going to be destined to be fighting it out in playoffs. You'd be a brave man not to back Origen to at least make top 6.
Especially after seeing both G2 eSports and Splyce lose a game today. Hugely influential and important for the squad of OG. Misfits, on the other hand, they are now down in the bottom of the table with the teams around them picking up wins. And for Misfits, no real surprise. Rookie team, you expect coin flip type of performances from them.
But we do learn something about this game because I hypothesized, okay, find a champion for DanDan to get a pressure lane on. And in the end, they decided to move him mid lane. Karma can't have that same long lane impact. And the idea of, say, grouping with DanDan and AD carry to get leads before leader turned on didn't really work because they tricked in the execution. It's a bit harder than just DanDan's really strong on Jax, and you have to try to deal with that. So maybe that's another strategy that Misfits will have to add to the try again later bucket. And then if leader doesn't get going, just like the analyst desk was hypothesizing, it feels like they run out of a lot of other win conditions.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And Papa, after that game, the most important question on my mind is not what our favorite pies are, but whether or not the rest of Europe agrees that pies are meant to be savory, not sweet. I realized as South African and Australian,
we're very biased.
Southern Hemisphere folk, we can't speak on behalf of Europeans. So you guys need to let us know at LEC, at Papasmithy, at Quickshot, like, you know, are pies supposed to be sweet?
These are the hard-hitting questions we ask you on the LEC broadcast.
They are. And the hard-hitting question that I'm going to ask you in a moment is player of the game suggestions. I can see the guys in production busy preparing it. Actually, might be ready already. At LOL eSports, Alphari, Kold, or Nukeduck? Alphari or Kold, it has to be for me.
I'm with Kold. I actually think he had a really good game in this one where he was ahead of the play. I love the plays where Misfits thinks they found their time to catch someone. I'm talking right to him here. Misfits so often thought they had the drop on Origen, and Kold and a friend were always there to back up the side laner. That's bro tier status right there. So Kold gets the bro vote, and for me, he should win the vote.
And it's also the player that has had a fair amount of criticism levied at him and hasn't had the performance. At the beginning of the game, we talked about his jungle proximity, but the inability to convert it into advantages or leads. Today, not the case.
He's been around a long time, you know, from the Splice days, so he'll take the lumps and he'll understand. He'll know he had a good game today, and recreating that as it goes on is the only thing that's really left for Kold, because playoffs jungling is a whole new ball game, and it seems to be destined for Origen once again. Yeah,
absolutely the case. Now, while Origen were able to pick up the win, we are actually going to hear a little bit more from the Misfits side, from the unlucky DanDan, who's being interviewed by Law.
Thanks, guys. DanDan, thank you for joining me. Things didn't go your way today, but what went wrong in the end, according to the game plan you had in the beginning?
I think that we just, at one time, we had wrong lane assignments, because at the start it actually went quite well for us. We got like a solo kill on top lane, then we dove top again, but then we had like wrong lane assignments with Irelia matching renekton and Karma matching Corki. So obviously Irelia against renekton is like a pretty bad lane, and then we just got caught once or twice. And from then on, Origen doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and they're a pretty slow-paced game, so after coming back from that, it's quite difficult.
Understandable. Do you think the pause, such a long pause as the one you had, is impactful in the rest of the game when you come back in the game?
I think we were at a stage in the game where we thought, I mean, the pause wouldn't really matter for us. It was just a little bit mentally taxing, I suppose, because I was basically playing without a rune the entire game, but yeah.
Now, I always get to hear what players think about a win, but what will you understand and keep after a lose like that? What will you learn from the game?
I guess we just have to learn to be more consistent in our plays, because we have the aggression down quite well in most departments, but we just have to be more consistent in just everything, in our early game, in our mid game, in how we play out the lanes, and just be smarter as a whole.
All right, well, let's see if you can turn it around tomorrow. Thank you very much for this interview, DanDan. And we're going to take a break, and coming back, it's going to be the last game of the day. Schalke 04 versus Fnatic. Don't go anywhere.
Teleport from Nukeduck. That's a stun and a kill onto Neon. Hiva will get shut down by Mithy. And that's just a very good play from Origen. Now DanDan all out of sorts. 4 members of Origen going to look to run him down. Kirei and leader nowhere near close enough. Now here comes Neon and DanDan as well, and it's still not done. Alphari's going to get another. The huge HP.
He's still alive.
He's not done yet. Finally, Neon takes him down, but the dredge line from Mithy convinces Origen to secure the ace. He was going to look for an engage, but before it can happen, Kirei is already going to get blown up. Along with Hiva, underneath the fountain, Neon goes down, so does leader. The last man standing, and Origen turn their attention to the Nexus. Origen stop